Good to go.
Well, hi everyone. Welcome to this lovely webinar. My name is Stephanie Schroeder and I'm the Publicity Director for Gift Books at Thomas Nelson, which is a division of HarperCollins Christian Publishing. I'm thrilled to introduce you to our author, Stephanie Fleming, the brilliant mind behind Plan a Happy Life, Define Your Passion, Nurture Your Creativity, and Take Hold of Your Dreams, which went on sale this week, yesterday in fact, so happy belated book birthday. Thank you all for tuning into this special webinar with us today. It should be a real treat. So for those of you here, you most likely know a little bit about Steph already. You know that she is a creative entrepreneur, speaker, optimist, and wellness seeker. You might know her as one of the co-founders of Me and My Big Ideas, a business that began in her garage and is now an industry-leading lifestyle brand. You might also know that Stephanie made the decision to retire, but she's keeping busier than ever with the upcoming launch of this, or the previous launch of this amazing book. Stephanie is also married to Kevin, has 2 grown children and 4 amazing grandchildren. She's on a mission to create a happy life movement by empowering people everywhere to take control of their own happiness by embracing planning, positivity, and all things creative. We're so happy to have Stephanie here with us online today in such a special capacity exclusively to you and to Michael's. If you feel so moved, please join me in giving Stephanie a warm welcome with a virtual round of applause.
Oh, I like that.
So this evening, we're going to have a little bit of a program for you all. So we're going to start with some questions from the book content, and then we're going to talk about the special Michael's edition of the book. And then afterwards, you know, we'd really love to know what questions you all have for her. So if you have a question about happiness or anything that comes to mind from the discussion, please put it in the Q&A and we'll be sure to address it during the audience Q&A section. And if you already have the book, we'd also love to know what your favorite parts are right now and what you're really enjoying. So with that, I think we're just going to get started. So there might be some people who tuned into the first webinar. So for them, this will be a repeat, but I think it's important for everyone to know as we begin diving into the book. So Steph, let's talk about how all of this got started and when did you really focus on an intentional journey with happiness?
That's a good question. And you might know, just say hi to everybody, but you might notice that we're calling me Steph and Stephanie from from the publisher Stephanie, because of course there's going to be 2 Stephanies on this call. But hi everybody. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm excited to be here and have this opportunity to talk to you. And I'm really glad at this point with the heat, I'm not actually sitting by a fireside. But yeah, so I think, you know, the culmination of this book and what we're doing today really started about almost 2.5 years ago. And then even before that, you know, this has been an opportunity for me to really share beyond the product that, you know, we create that I love so much, that to share really my experience and the things that I've learned in, you know, trying to find what makes me happy. And I really did that. And I started this intentional search for happiness during one of the most difficult times for me, which was during my separation and then subsequent divorce about 12-ish, 13 years ago, somewhere like that. I was at a low point in my life, and I realized that I had these patterns of unhealthy behaviors and people pleasing and perfectionism and all the things. And I just was getting to that place where I was just unhappy. I was almost 40 years old. So it's never too late, you guys. And I just started to see these patterns and really said, you know what, if I'm going to be happy, I need to figure out what that is for me. I need to figure out who I am. And I just need to start taking the baby steps to, you know, figure that out. And it was not easy. A lot of it was not fun, but it was worth every single step. And so that's why, you know, when the opportunity came for us at the Happy Planner to even have an opportunity for a book, and we kind of settled on, I think I want to share this journey, this story, and have these tools, this, you know, in the book and share that, as opposed to, you know, just, I didn't want to do just my story. And we didn't want it to be like, here's how you plan, here's how do you use the Happy Planner. I wanted to take it deeper. And I'm so proud of what this book has become. And I'm so excited for everybody to get their hands on it and to really start, you know, working in it.
Awesome. Well, I love the theme of today. You know, we have each of these fireside chats has a different theme and a different chapter of the book. And coincidentally, today's session is all about planning, which couldn't be more convenient or appropriate. So as someone who co-founded a company with planners as one of the main products, I think it might be easy to imagine that the planning stuff has always come easy or naturally to you. Is that true?
No, no, it actually couldn't be farther from the truth. I like order and routine. I'm very comfortable with it, but it's not a natural thing for me. You'll probably find out if you haven't already, like, if you follow me on Instagram or you do any of those things, you'll know, or you'll see today that I'm kind of all over the place. I'm led by my emotions and by my passion. And in some areas of my life that has really served me well. I follow my big ideas and I allow those things to happen, but it also leads me to a very chaotic life. And I find myself procrastinating things and I don't prioritize very well. And so planning and the way that I plan, it's not something that comes naturally for me, but it's a tool that I had to develop and a practice that I had to exercise and develop over my life in order to run a successful household and a business and, feed my children and not forget to pick them up from school, except for that one time, but other than that, it does not come naturally for me. So just like with so many things, you don't have to be naturally good at this. And so, yeah, so this was definitely a survival technique and tactic for me.
Yeah. So with the planning theme in mind, I think when people think about happiness, they think that they need to be happy, or they think that they need to feel happy, which is definitely true. But of course, the theme of this chapter is planning happiness and planning to be happy. And so why do you think that planning is so important when it comes to creating that happy life?
So I got a question today because I've been doing a lot of different PR things for the book this week. And someone asked me a really good question today because she was talking about goals, and in the book we talk about, you finding happiness where you are and defining that. And was it connected with setting goals and planning, or should you already, find it within you? And I thought, oh, it really made me think. And I thought that's a really good question. And here's what I think is that I think we need to figure out how we find happiness and contentment with who we are, and who just we are, but also in our lives. But then, beyond that, finding out, let's just say you said, I'm in corporate America and I don't want to do that anymore. I want to slow down. And I think what would make me happy was to maybe have a part-time job or start a little something for myself so I can spend more time with my kids, let's say. That's not going to just happen for you. You might think that may be a goal of yours that you believe and you've defined that's going to make you happier. You've got to set some pretty intentional plans to make that happen in your life. You can't just sit back and go, well, that's what I want, that's where it comes into me. It's kind of a two-part plan. You have to have that. I think is if you find out that, I will be happy when I do that, that's not really going to work either. So you have to do both of the things. You've got to be okay with who you are, find the gratitude, being present and savoring and just, embracing your life as it is, but also constantly be evolving and growing and finding that happiness for yourself as well. And I think that's where planning comes in.
Sure. Well, I think I happen to have the chat open just for a second, and I saw someone from Canada say that they're so looking forward to the book being in Michael's in Canada, and this is a really relevant time to start over. And I think a lot of people think of fresh starts in January or New Year's resolutions, but I guess could you talk a little bit about why this month in particular and everything we're going through, how September can feel like a really great time to start over and really dig into that planning?
Oh yeah. So this is just a coincidence because we never talked about this, but I have always in this, people do spring cleaning and January 1st and all of that. I've never felt like that renewal for myself at those times. I'm not much of a rebel at all. I'm a total rule follower. So it's kind of weird that I don't kind of just fall into that, but there's something about fall. So just that part for me, my kids would go back to school and I kind of had that this fresh new, it's my favorite season. So that's one thing. However, I think right now, we all know everyone around the world is going through something. Everyone's going through something. And I think that now more than ever, we need to have this time that we, take some time to just slow it down just a tiny bit and figure out, in the midst of this chaos, in the midst of this uncertainty and, everything that's going on, where can we find some happiness? And what does that mean like for us? And it could be very simple. If what you're going through is a lot, it could just be very, very simple. Or it could be like, hey, I'm doing pretty good. I'm going to, set some big goals. So I think this time we need to take a little bit of that back, as opposed to being so controlled by these things that we have absolutely no control over.
Absolutely. I think change is that, universal feeling that it doesn't matter what walk of life you're coming from. I think that's the thing that's binding us all together right now. And in the book, you actually say, don't let the fear of change keep you from reaching for your happy life. And I love that that is so relevant to what we're talking about. Can you think of a situation where that almost happened to you and one of your big dreams?
Well, I think, I have, I think I shared in the last one that I actually had a lot of fear of failure, fear of all kinds of things. And I let that stop me a lot going in my life. But I think there's been a couple times where for some reason I didn't fear change. And that was when we started our business. And I'll get to your question. the part that I wasn't afraid for some reason. And I think it was, I really didn't have anything to lose. I got ready to lose my home, and, I didn't have enough money to pay the bills, and, I had nowhere to go but up. So when you are in that spot, and if you're in that spot right now, sometimes that's a blessing. If you can take it that way, to say, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to work, because I can only make my circumstances better at this time. So that changed everything. I quit my job. I, cleaned out my garage and said, let's just go into business together. This is completely unknown, and took that big leap. But then in other areas of my life, and I don't mean to harp on my divorce, but it was such an enlightening period for me, because I was about 37 years old, and I had what you would consider, and what most people would have considered to be like, oh, she's got it made. I was married. I had a nice home. I had 2 kids. I had a dog. I had a successful business. I had all the things that I thought would make me happy. And my life kind of changed really quickly. And, all of a sudden found out my marriage there was infidelity. And then I became very depressed and dealt with a lot of abuse. And, it was a very, very toxic situation for me. And I just got to the lowest I've ever been. And in that, I was so afraid of change. Where I was not good, but the fear of change, of that unknown for me, was even greater than the toxic environment that I was living in. Mm-hmm. And it took a lot for me to say, I'm one of those people, I guess, that you have to shake and say, like, you need to get out of this. This is not good. But at that point, it's like I got to where I said, a change, I would rather be alone than lonely. And I would rather not know what's going to happen, and at least be in a healthier place. And so that I was almost so paralyzed by the unknown and fear that I would never have seen what my life could be like today. If you would ask me 15 years ago if I would ever be in this of a happy of a marriage, or have my business be the success that it was and find the fulfillment in it, I would have told you, yeah, for somebody else, but not for me. Yeah. I used to see people that were in relationships and thought, wow, that's so nice if somebody could just find their soulmate, but I just don't think it's in the cards for me. And I wasn't willing to let that go. So that change, that scary, scary place that I was, on the other side of that was the happy planner, was my husband and my best friend, was this life now that I am so blessed to live, and the people and the planner community and everybody that's watching this that I've had just the honor to connect with, who have fed my soul, helped me write this book. So sometimes when you're in the darkest place of your life, when you can be brave and kind of walk, that's why those baby steps are so important to your to your happiness, is because sometimes on the other side of that is something you would never even imagine for yourself.
Absolutely. And I think, our minds are a fascinating and horrifying place in terms of what we can convince ourselves of, and not really know it, because they're not intentional things, but it's like that little voice that you hear rattling around in there. And you talked about, the planner community. And on the last webinar, I was going through the chat session, and someone had repeated something that you had said, that I am worthy of every happiness. And so there were handfuls of people that just put, that's going to be my mantra for 2020. That's going to be my new life mantra. Why do you think people don't feel worthy of happiness? Or maybe talk about it maybe on a personal level, why people, or family members or friends have expressed that.
I'm shocked. I was really shocked. I thought that was something that I only dealt with, and I was usually a really pretty private person. I think because I had so many insecurities, I was trying to hide from everybody so that I seemed, more perfect or perfect. And I felt that I don't know why. I think just trying to please everybody and to really not understanding who I was, being in a relationship where you have somebody that's telling you, you're not this, you're that, and they weren't complimentary, and you stay long enough and you kind of start to, like I've said before, like I believed everything he said I was, and I believed everything he said I wasn't. I just never really tapped into that for myself. And I thought what I was doing, which I think a lot of women do, we give, and I speak for men too, but like I said, I've never been a guy, so I don't know. But for me as a mom and as a wife, you give so much of yourself, and I'm so glad I did, but I did it to the point where I was basically an empty vessel, and I know that's kind of a typical thing people understand. But I thought I was doing what I should be doing. I thought anytime I focused on myself felt selfish, felt like I should be giving more to my kids. And it also was uncomfortable because I didn't know who I was. And, once I started to open up and really share a little bit and be a little bit more vulnerable with my story and how I felt, I was floored and really it was sad. I was saddened to see that there were that many people that would just kind of even, tear up when I said that and go, I feel that. I'm like, you're not alone. I felt that too. And so that whole idea of just knowing that you're worthy of it, that's such a huge barrier to getting over to that other side, because when you don't believe it, you don't allow the things to happen that way. You don't make the right choice in who you date or who you see or the job that you take or the things that you do in your life. And I don't know. I think we're hard on ourselves. I think we believe we have to be this, you have to have more, you have to do more. And, one of the things that I feel like, do you always need to have more? When's enough? What is enough for you? And that I something that, like you go through in the book, you have to decide what is enough for you. And the first thing is that you are enough just the way you are, and then go through and, figure out what you want in your life.
Absolutely. Well, on the last session, you talked about, the work that you put in to define what happiness was for you. So let's talk about the work that goes into being talented at planning. So I know you have a real custom system for yourself. So could you and you talk about that in the book. Could you talk about that planning system and how you make that work for you in your life?
I'm a total functional planner. So everybody who's listening to this, you rock the before the pens, and you could, sit right there with Heather from Kell of a Plan, and you can do your beautiful layouts that are coordinated. Like, I lack that skill, which is, I've done lives with Heather where she's tried to walk me through, and I'm like, I get it. I can't do this. This is not my thing. Because like I said, for me, planning is all about kind of taming the right side of my brain that usually just wants to run off everywhere and, not do the things that I should do, to be honest. So the first thing I do is I have a master list. That is like, if I had one thing that I would never give up from planning, it's my master list, because I think for me and for a lot of you, I would imagine, there's so many things going through your mind at one time. All the time you've got, empty the dishwasher. I got to pick that kid up from school. I've got, oh gosh, I have this over here that I have to do soccer practice. Got to do this for my husband. Got to, I have a big meeting and a project that's due. I've got these deadlines and I've got to call and get the air conditioning fixed and all the things. And the busier you become, the harder it is to remember all the things. And I get overwhelmed very easily. And then I start checking off the things that are easy or fun. I don't do the things that I should be doing. And then I get so frustrated and it's just life gets away from me. So my master list is just a place. And for me, I used to have a work list and a home list, and now they're combined. But so anything that I think of, write it down. And you'll find that your brain, there's so much more space for ideas, for just being more present. I think it's David Allen, I think his name is, who has a quote that says, your brain or your mind is for having ideas, not storing them. And I can really just relate to that so much, because once I'm thinking of stuff, my job was to be creative. And if I was thinking of all those things, then, I wasn't creative. The creative blocks were, left and right. So I do that. And then I'm the kind of person who, just like typical, if Stephanie, if you and I have a meeting at 2:00 on Wednesday, I write it down in my planner. I don't I don't lay out first to see what colors and stuff. I write it down. I might put a little, I might color code things like, oh, I've got these tiny little pink hearts for my meetings. And then I'd write it down. And then I kind of add some color and stickers and fun things after that. I transfer. On Sundays are usually my planning day. That's when I go, and I'm a hybrid. So I use Gmail or Outlook, depending on where I'm at. And I will also have those things on there. But what I do on Sundays is that's when I review all the calendar stuff that I have online and what's in my planner, and I make sure they coordinate and I prioritize. That's probably the biggest thing. I take the things off of my master list. What needs to be done this week? How much time do I have? And then I just kind of, plan things out. This is what's for dinner. This is what, and I don't always do it. I will tell you, anybody who says I do this 100% of the time, I do it all the time, it never fails. No, I would like to meet that person. Because what I can tell you is when I do this system for me, I have like some of the most productive, amazing weeks. And I like to look at the layouts, and I like to just pat myself on the back and say, you did such a good job. And then I'll have a frantic week and I'll go, oh, I got to pull myself together. So just that, it's really just making lists, transferring them on to my week once a week, and then really prioritizing. And that's when I find that I get the most done.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm curious about the time increments too, because you talked about, doing things on Sunday to plan for your week. And I'll admit that one of my most dreaded interview questions is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh.
So I think thinking about increments of time and how to plan them is important, because I think it's easy to get overwhelmed if you think about those long range plans rather than the short range plans. So why do you recommend people decide the details of their plan 1 month at a time?
So just tell me if this is me. This is just me, because it could just be me, but I am famous for setting all kinds of goals or plans or whatever it is, whether it was on my wellness journey or whether it was, my wellness planner, or whether I'm tracking goals. I'd say I get like gung-ho, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I have a whole year to do till my reunion, or I have a whole, I can't be the only person that does this.
Right.
And, and I'm like, and here's what's going to happen. And by, it's January 1st. And can you imagine how amazing I'm going to look December 31st? Or do you know that how much stuff I'm going to get done? I can start my new business, or I can do my whole house will be redecorated, or, and then you're not really setting yourself up for success. You are setting yourself up for, you get 3 weeks into it and you're like, shoot, and then you're not you have that feeling of, I've dropped the ball, I've failed, you're setting yourself up for failure, and that's never a good thing. People quit easier that way. And you start to have those well, maybe I shouldn't do this. And I'm also famous for being all or nothing. And so when I drop the ball on something and I feel like I go, well, there we go. I've really had to train myself, and I'm still in the process of not doing that. And so for me, when I do it a month at a time, that is when I found the most success, where you pretty much know, like for the month of September, let's say, what kind of month it's going to probably pan out to be like for you. Now these days, who knows, but generally speaking, you can say, September, my kids are going back to school, and I'll have a little bit more time. The weather's like this, you kind of can spell things out. So give yourself a month. And then at the end of that month, I think what you do is, you look and you say, wow, this worked great for me. I'm going to repeat that next month. We'll go with that same plan. That kind of really taking a month to have a goal, make a plan, and then evaluate it at the end of that time. You're not going to let it get away with you. And you're going to kind of give yourself permission to say, if it doesn't work after a month, if the thing that you thought and the maybe the approach to your goal doesn't work after a month, so switch it. Switch it after a week if you don't want. I just kind of wanted to like dissuade people from doing that whole thing, because every time I've done it, I've had so much gung-ho motivation, like let's go type of a thing from the beginning, and then I feel like I couldn't even last 3 weeks, so that month is safe.
Yeah, it helps keep the spark alive, perhaps.
Yeah, for sure.
So over the course of a month, let's talk about the necessity of planning time to focus on yourself. So in your planner, what does that look like for you in terms of the things that you make sure to be intentional about planning, things that help you grow and learn and sort of recharge?
We've got to add ourselves to the list. I'm sure people have heard this, and I think physically putting that time in your planner, actually scheduling time for you is really powerful. So, the must-dos for me usually go in right away. Like there's things that you just have to do, right? But then you'll see, before you start filling it up with call the air conditioner, empty the dishwasher, do these things, put yourself in next. My husband and I, before COVID, did date night every week. Every week was Wednesday. I had it in there. And when I planned, it was like one of the very first things that went in my planner was date night with my husband. Planning time to, get out and have some activity and movement and go on walks. I would schedule that time in. Then I would fill in around the rest. Then later on, if somebody is asking, hey, are you available to, meet at this time, or can you get together, or can the kids get together? You can very easily set those boundaries and say, hey, I'm actually busy, because maybe you're walking at 7:30 in the morning to take care of yourself physically. And you say, I can't do that early, but I can do at 9 o'clock. That way you're scheduling time for yourself, and you're also protecting it. You shouldn't have to reschedule you all the time. You're not the one that gets moved around. And then, because we all know what happens is that you get stuck on the back burner and you never take care of yourself. So after the must-dos are in, then put yourself in there.
Yeah. I like that you say in the book that you also put that kind of stuff in pen versus pencil, because it's so easy to just say, oh, I can be second priority. And it's not even, it's so funny how that just happens naturally, we don't even sometimes think twice about that.
Yeah. And it's so funny, because I think when I was at a planner convention, I was speaking, and I think I said something like and all the planners in this chat right now will know. I said, the next step for you is to take out a pen, not a pencil and not a sticky note, because there's all sorts of these things where you can like move them around, and it's like, no, put yourself in there in pen, like write it down. I mean, yes, plans can change, and just because you wrote it in pen doesn't, but it's a symbolic gesture. It's a symbolic, thing that you can do to say, like, I am worthy of being in pen, because what's healthy for me in taking care of myself is just as important as taking care of my family members or doing something for somebody else. There's still time, you'll make time for other people too. It's not, we're not talking about being selfish and self-centered, but I think you would know I know myself, and I know that I would give more than I would ever do for myself. I'm much better at that now.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that's something, if you're someone, because there's going to be there might be people that are like, hey, no, I'm real good at taking care of myself. I really need to give to others. Then put them in pen. You know, I mean, there's got to be some self-awareness. So, you know, where are you in life where you need to do that work and you need to make that commitment? And I know planners are sometimes really scared of pen, like right away.
You know your people.
I do.
Also, when it comes to the things that you write in your planner, and you say, you know, something else you talk about in terms of working on plans and goals. Why do you say it's important to write down what you're grateful for or how you're feeling?
Oh gosh. Okay. So well, first of all, because I just got distracted, I saw somebody in the chat say, thank God for erasable pens. No. No erasable pens. I'm talking like pens. Okay. No, see, this is why I have to turn it off, because I would be so in the chat just going like, hey, squirrel. Okay. So why do I think, wait, ask me that again.
Writing down what you're grateful for and how you're feeling is important.
Okay. So let me talk about feelings. This is one of my favorite things. I love feelings so much. My husband could tell you. One of the things that I have learned, and I just learned today because I'm taking this course in happiness, shocking, which is when we learn to deal with our emotions, we take away that option for our emotions to control our behaviors. And I was like, light bulb. This is why when I was keeping my wellness planner for a whole year, that what I found was, you know, a lot of people know about like a gratitude journal, but what I didn't understand was how my emotions were controlling my behaviors, because it became something that I didn't even realize was happening. And so I would find myself coming home, and my behaviors for that, once I wrote them down, it gave me this visibility and this clarity and this awareness of, I had a meeting at work that I felt marginalized, right? And I got angry, and I learned through that process that I'm very comfortable with sadness. I'm very comfortable with some emotions, but anger, I did not know how to deal with. And every time that came up for me, and the reason I would know that is because I wrote it down in my planner. I wrote down those emotions. I would eat. I wasn't making healthy choices, and I wasn't walking more. I'd be like, you know how I'm going to take care of myself? I'm going to sit down there with that wine and that ice cream, and I'm going to feel better, which I knew that I did, because I know I'm an emotional eater. But what I didn't understand was that a lot of it was because I couldn't process some of these emotions. Yeah. And so what this does for your mental state, for your mental well-being, by tracking emotions or tracking gratitude, whatever it is that you need to focus on in your daily planner. And for me, it's in a different section. Some people might use a spot in their, you know, in the weekly section, be like, here's my to-dos, and then here's where I write gratitude. Some people may have a different planner or a different section in their planner. I had a whole different wellness planner where it was just like me tracking my, you know, mental, physical, and spiritual wellness. But that it just gives it that visibility, because when you start that practice of writing things down that have to do with your emotions, or have to do with, hey, I need to be in a more grateful place in my life, it's powerful, because you're not letting something that you're not dealing with have the power. Because when we feel like, you know what, I don't like to be angry, because I like kindness and compassion, and I like that in my life, and so I want to surround me. So when I feel anger, I don't want to deal with it. And what happens is I end up feeling angrier, and I feel, you know, I'm not dealing with it. So my eyes were just opened to the power of writing things down and reflection. And that's why, whether it's in, you know, a journal like the one that we're going to have that's coming out at Michael's, where it just has gratitude and daily reflection, you know, that's something that's so easy to do, but it's such a powerful tool. It really changed the way I saw how I behaved and how I walked through life.
Yeah. Well, speaking of tools and, you know, just the premise of the book in general, I like how you say that you're not going to tell someone, you know, exactly how to have a happy life. You can't prescribe happiness, but you can sort of show them the way. I love that, there are so many different like takeaways in the book. So for a couple minutes, can you talk about, a lot of people have popped in and said, what is different about this Michael's version? And you talked about the special edition the other night. And I just think that's such a great feature. So I'd love for you to talk about what people can expect from that too.
Yeah, so I have my handy dandy Michael's version here, which by the way, I am going through and doing this because at my time right now of retirement, I don't really know what makes me happy, like in this section, because I've never been retired. So I'm going through the book with you guys and I'm writing everything down. And I chose the Michael's version because, and I'm not there yet, but there's a thing called, I call it happiness mapping. And these are like a radial map, or there's another word for them, a mind map. You may have done those before. And they and I have an example of how to do them and how I do it, but it's basically like a brainstorm where, one of the questions in there in the Michael's version is, what makes me happy? And when you ask somebody that question, it's a huge question. Like, what makes you happy? And you're like, and I've told the story 1,000 times, but it's like, the only thing I knew how to do was peanut butter. Stephanie and I share a passion for peanut butter. But when you go beyond that, it's like one of the things I write, what makes you happy? It's making my house a home. That makes me happy. And then you go from there, right? So you go through and it just kind of helps you brainstorm these big picture questions that sometimes are hard to answer right away. And so the Michael's version has 8 different of these happiness maps. What's important to me? What brings me peace? What are my strengths? What do I love about myself? How can I connect with others? And what I love about having them right here in this book is that I really hope you guys that you write all over this journal in pen, in highlighter, put stickers, do whatever you want. But if you feel like you need to get one beautiful for a shelf that you don't want to write in, like get two, because this book is not meant to be me telling you how to live your life and how to be happy. It's for you to do the work, ask yourself the questions so that you can do and you will figure out what makes you happy. And so in the back of this one with those happiness maps, I like having it all in one spot. So so I'm super excited and thankful that Michael's was, willing and open to having a bonus or a limited edition for the stores. And I think that's a pretty special one. I'm excited to get, and I've done it before, but I'm excited to do it again.
Yeah. So for everybody who has their pens and planners out, let's talk about dates. When should people start, when can people expect to be able to walk into a store, go online and find that special version of the book?
So I know everybody is so excited and it's very hard to exercise patience. And I know, the book had a release date, but, Michael's, as you guys know, is a huge entity, which is why it is so convenient for us to shop at and why we have all these amazing things. And so they have a set date, which is this Friday, October. It's 2020, August 28th. It's August 28th. It will be available in all of Michael's stores. So convenient for you on their .com site, so michaels.com, and at Michael's Canada or in Michael's Canada stores. So you should have no problem finding it. Just be just a tiny bit patient. You just have to wait until Friday, and then you'll be able to see the book product, the planner. There's the Plan a Happy Life journal, stickers, there's a white punch, and all the great product that will be on an end cap at Michael's. And you better believe I am going to be donning my mask and going around to all of the Michael's here because I really want to see the set. But so beginning the 28th of this month, which is Friday.
Well, that's super exciting. So I have one parting question for you, and then I see our Q&A section. Everybody is very good at following instructions. So there are a lot of people who have submitted questions for you, which we'll get to very quickly. But just when you think of the people reading this book, I guess I'd love to know, what is your ultimate hope for them? Or just what's the one thing you want them to take away?
I have, like, what I want is, I think I said this the last time, and it's true for if you could take away one thing, it's chapter 2. And I think if I had to rewrite the book, I would make it chapter 1, is to be able to say, to stand right in your own presence, just with yourself, and to say and believe that you're worthy of happiness and love and acceptance and all of that. That's going to be a hard step for some people. It was a really, really hard step for me. If it is for you, it's okay. It's really okay. So if you're there and that's where it's like, that's the work you need to do, and you need to put the book down and come back later and do all the other stuff later, super fine. Like that would be my ultimate goal. If you can do that and keep going, I hope, like I said, I hope you fill the book up. I hope you take the time to really think about the questions that are in there, and you do some of that work, and that you close the book at the end and you say, I've got a really good idea about who I am, and I like who I am, or I'm going to change it. And I know what makes me happy, and I feel empowered to go out there and start to live that life. That would be my ultimate goal.
Well, that's a great note for you and I to end on, but I'm going to transition it over to the moderators and folks who have been combing that Q&A section, because I know we got a few of them.
We do. You're right, Stephanie. Lots of great questions tonight. Okay, so here we go. A couple people are asking about your podcast. Is that something that you're looking to resume?
No, not at this time. I never say never to anything, because I change my mind all the time. But so when I did the podcast, I loved it. I did it with my daughter, Kayla. And then I've since retired, and Kayla has moved back into the skincare. She's an educator, and she teaches future professionals to become estheticians. And she has got such a passion for that. So she learned from the family business and then moved on to go do something else. And then I retired, and we're like, it's really hard to continue a podcast that way. So now it kind of lives. It's still up there. I loved doing it, but for the time being anyway, yeah, probably not.
Okay, and we have a lot of questions about your planning style. So Joanne asks, how do you use your planner? Do you record day by day, week by week?
I use like one, how some people have like a lot of different planners. I have one, I call it my Command Central, and it's Frankenplan. There's all sorts of different things. There's notes, there's the wellness piece of it. I don't budget, so that's not in there. And then I just go week by week. I use a vertical, like a classic sized vertical planner. And the planner that's coming out at Michael's that's coordinating with this book, it's a 12-month. It starts January of next year. But it is like, I'll show you because I have it right here. This has been one I've been asking for so long. It's just plain black and white. This is exactly the kind of planner that I wanted. I want the skinny little lines. I want no colors because I want to add colors myself. And so I do that's the week. I plan weekly. I don't plan hourly because I don't stick to it that well. I just kind of prioritize my days like that.
And do you decorate before or after the pen?
After. I can't do it before the pen. I decorate as I go. Like, I just feel like if one day I'm going, I need a little something, I put something cute down, and that's why a lot of times I don't show my layouts as much, because people are like, I want to be inspired. It's like, it's my to-do list in a planner, which I probably should show more, because I used to not be able to, because it had so much work stuff on it that I couldn't share. Now I could probably share a little bit more, because you guys don't care if I have to empty the Roomba bin. That's not proprietary information.
Do you have a favorite pen, Steph?
I do. It's very boring. I'm starting to like this one, and I just ripped the sticker off, so I don't know. I like pens that are black always and really fine tips. So I like this one. I don't know, Hannah gave it to me. But my favorite go-to is just a Uniball roller pen with a micro tip. You could get like a box of 12 of them, really cheap. I know a lot of planners have very beautiful special pens, and I just need one that writes super tiny so I can write in all my things.
And Catherine wants to know, how many planners do you use?
Really, like, I just have one. I kind of like so let's just say I probably have two. So a wellness planner and a regular planner. But I always have one. They're always in one, if that makes sense. I don't want to have two of them. I want to be able, if I'm going upstairs and I want to sit on my deck and, write down something. I want all that stuff in one. And that's why I like the disc system so much. But yeah, I just have the one. I do change it all the time. I change the cover. I change the order of it. It's almost like a wardrobe.
I like this one. Do your children use the Happy Planner?
No, that's not true. That's actually not true. So Kaylee used to be so hard on herself because she worked at the company for a long time. And she would say, I don't use the planner. I don't use the planner. Oh my gosh, I don't use it like you guys do. And I said, but she does. She uses the cover. She doesn't use it as a calendar, but she uses it to organize things. So she'd punch all of her reports and things in there, and she would use the note paper. And so she organized her life in the planner. She just didn't use the calendar. I'm like, you use the Happy Planner, you just don't use the calendar part of it. And then my son, he's got 4 kids, so he doesn't have time to do anything.
Okay, so how do you recommend someone stay motivated to plan when life keeps throwing curveballs, serious curveballs like car accidents, cancer, job loss?
That is a great question. And my answer might not be what somebody might expect, but I said, don't worry about it then. If planning adds to your life and it helps you through that, and you feel a pressure relieved by writing something down, then do that. But if you're feeling the pressure because you're going through a lot, whatever, any of those things would be, throw you a curveball and just be life altering for you. Don't worry about keeping up. Don't worry about keeping up with planning. Like, this is for you. And this should not be any added pressure. It should be something that adds to your life. And so if there's a way, if you think like, oh, I'm just, trying to keep doctor's appointments, keep track of those, or, and you want to use it that way, great. But if you're not feeling motivated to do it, I don't know, maybe that's a weird answer from somebody like me, but like, don't do it. I do all the time. One of the reasons why our journal that comes out with this line on Friday is that it doesn't have dates in it, is because how many times have you had something that was dated and you're supposed to keep up with and you're like, ugh, I didn't do it for 3 weeks. Maybe I shouldn't do it anymore. But that part of it is like, has a time part for the date, and then gratitude and like reflection, daily reflection. So if you do it one day, great. And then the next day, if it's a month later, you haven't missed anything. At that point, you haven't missed anything. So give yourself some grace to realize that you don't have to keep up with anything if it's not working for you.
So Steph, what do you want to do next? Will there be a second book?
I'll be real honest, just like Stephanie said, I will never tell you that I have all the answers, and I will be the first one to tell you when I don't know something, and I don't know. I'm hoping that, by doing some of these activities in the book, that I'll have a little bit of a clear vision of where I feel like I want to be led. Right now, I want to be filled up again. And it sounds kind of strange because I'm so thankful for everything that the Happy Planner and Me and My Big Ideas brought to my life in the planner community. But when a company grows to a certain size, and Terry, Terry, who's moderating, is our sales VP at Me and My Big Ideas, it becomes bigger than I was comfortable with. And I think I say that is because you guys can see I'm a creative, I'm scattered, and I have a different way of processing things. And that big, in order to keep you guys getting the products you want, the company needs to move in a different direction than I think I thrive in. And so I started to become more depleted, which isn't good for anybody. And so as the company is growing, and I get to be a part of it this way, because I will always be a Happy Planner. I will always love the brand mission and the products, and be a supporter and a user and all that. Personally, I had to make that hard decision to say, just like you might in your life, what is going to be fulfilling for me? What gives me purpose? And that is really what drives my life. So I don't know. I'm actually excited to see. I'm a little bit nervous just because I have been so fulfilled and gotten so much from this planner community that it makes me a little nervous of how do I follow that up? But I need some space. I need a little bit of time I need some margin in my life.
Well, one of your fans is suggesting that you become a life coach.
You know what? I'll tell you what, the thing that I love the most is sitting with somebody and one-on-one. And I think if I had to do my life over again, I would love to be a therapist. I would love to have like, I'm taking a class, a course that starts in October. It's a year-long course to be certified as in happiness studies. So really talking about how the psychology of happiness and how it worked in history and how you go about that. And so within a year, I will be a certified happiness instructor. And I would love to do something like that. And if it ever presented itself, to me, that'd be kind of fun.
Well, that's a good segue to this. A couple people are asking if you can provide more information to the happiness seminar that you mentioned.
The one that was just there? It's okay, so there's a couple different things. The one I'm taking is it's like a college course. I mean, you get certified and everything. So it's not, it was not a cheap class. And I think, but it's called Happiness Studies Academy. It's online and it's hosted by Tal Ben-Shahar, who was the professor at Harvard who taught Harvard's most popular class on happiness and like the psychology of happiness, I believe. So he's teaching that. But I also know that I believe there's like a free class. I'll see if I can find that somewhere. I want to say there's like a free class that Harvard has online that is like the study of happiness, and you can take it. And I took that one as well. So I think if you Google like Harvard happiness class, you could probably find that.
Along the same lines, do you have any recommendations for good resources to help increase self-confidence?
As far as a resource, I don't know. I mean, I think that for me, learning to be self-aware, to be able to like look at yourself, and it's okay to say, these are the things I like about myself. These are the things that I wish were maybe different, and things that I could, and I don't mean like, oh, I wish I had different eyes or a different hat, whatever. I mean like, maybe I procrastinate. And that's not really getting me a place. I'm maybe hard on myself, or maybe I'm too critical of others, or maybe I'm, look at that and figure that kind of stuff out, and become self-aware, because I don't know of any like outside resource that you could say, like, if you do this, you're going to be more confident. However, I think confidence is something that like, oh man, I think my positivity is a superpower, but I also think confidence is a superpower. That's a really good question. I'm going to look into that, because I'm not sure of any resources that come to mind for it, but it's definitely a worthy pursuit.
On our last fireside chat, you talked a little bit about the book club. Can you give more information on how to register?
Yes. So I'm super, super excited about the book club, because I think it was my way of saying, I want to show you how I meant this book to be participate, like how you were supposed to how I envisioned you participating in reading this book. And I can talk here, but I wanted to be able to have something that kind of was evergreen, and once we went through it, that it kind of lived on for people as a resource. So I started a website that's basically nothing. People said, did you start a new business? I don't understand what you just did. I thought you retired. And it's basically to house the book club and to say, like, who is this person? So here's what it is. You can go to stephaniefleming.com, and it's easy to navigate. There's a link up there that says book club. It starts September 6th, and it will run every week. I'll send an email out every week, every Sunday in September. And so there's 4 weeks, and there's 4 sections of the book. So what I'm going to do is say, okay, the first one is we're going to read, here's your assignment, read that first section, really do the exercises that are included in the book, because this book isn't just text and copy, it's exercises, and there's a lot of interactive activities like that. And then in addition to that, we're going to do some level up questions that'll help take that a little bit deeper, and then do some creative challenges, so that in addition to all of the content you get in the book, we're going to take that even farther, so that you'll have even more of a toolbox at the end to go out there and live your happy life. So it's free. If you want to follow along with me, I will be kind of hosting it and taking the conversation onto my Instagram, which is Stephanie_Fleming. I'll be doing weekly lives to just kind of talk about the book and share how I'm going through that in my retirement phase. And then, but if you're busy in September, do it in October. If you want to do a little bit of it, it's self-paced, it's free, there's no pressure. It's just an added piece of content for you, and a way for me to interact with you and kind of give you just a little bit more as like a thank you, and as I just want to be your girlfriend and sit and have like a little book club with you.
A couple of fashion related things. Crystal loves your glasses. A couple people want to know if you're wearing a disc necklace.
Oh, okay. So thank you for my glasses. These are from Zenni. They have very reasonable glasses, which is good because I have a glasses like addiction where now that I have to wear them because I can't see anything without them, I want to change them all the time. And so Zenni is a great place to do that. And then I found this when, I think it's Jennifer Meyer jewelry. And it was right when we sold the majority portion of our business, and we sealed that deal kind of, and it was done. This popped up in my feed somewhere, I don't know, and I'm like, it's a disc, and it was meant to be. And so this is a gift that I bought for myself to celebrate that timeline in my life.
Natalie has a good question that I'm sure other people are asking too. How do we get over the guilt of making ourselves the priority?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think you have to say, if you believe that you are worthy of being taken care of, and sometimes you have to look at yourself like a child or a friend. Think of yourself as a 4-year-old you, and how you would want to be taken care of, or whatever, 10-year-old little Stephanie. I would want someone to take care of her. I would want her to be nurtured. I would want her to be talked to kindly, which is not a lot of times how I did talk to myself, or sometimes even still do. Or if you have a good friend, what would you tell your good friend? Most of the time, we would never, ever talk to ourselves the way we talk. We would never talk to our friends the way we talk to ourselves. We would never say, oh yeah, that's great, but I don't really have time for you, to a child or a loved one. And so that guilt of taking time for yourself and making yourself a priority, you have to be able to say you deserve it. And that's that first part, is that when you can say, I'm worthy of this, I'm worthy of the time it takes to take care of me, then I think the guilt will start to subside. Sometimes, if you're conditioned to do that, it might take a little while and it may not really go away, but it's, again, that's something that you need to practice. It's something that, like, if you've done it your whole life, is not going to come easy. You're going to go, oh great, yeah, I'm good now. It's going to take time, and have some positive affirmations. I took some of our big stickers and I would put them on my mirror in the bathroom, and one of mine said, like, you are enough, because at the time I didn't believe it. And so when every day I looked at myself in the mirror and there was this big cute sticker that said, you are enough, I looked at it for a while and I was like, I'm enough, you're enough, and finally after a while you do start to like, okay, I'm enough. You need to have those positive reinforcements and affirmations around you to help you, learn your way through that.
Not sure how much more time we have, but Kayla wants to know, how did you come up with the name Me and My Big Ideas, and then the Happy Planner?
Oh, so Me and My Big Ideas was my mom. My mom and I started the company together in 1998. And she had been marginalized in some other business ventures, I'll just say. And her job was to present ideas. Here, this creative idea, this creative idea. And if you've ever been that person that needs to, have the creative ideas presented to somebody and them just go, no, 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 no. It's kind of disheartening. And she even had this person say, that's a good one. That's a base hit. We're looking for home runs, and then actually kind of mock it a little bit and say like, oh, you and your big ideas. And so when we started the company, we were like, we had all these ideas and all of, we were very idealistic. And she was like, what if we named the company Me and My Big Ideas? And wouldn't it be great if we were successful that we could just say, oh yeah, it's just me and my big ideas. And so, so that was her idea. And then the Happy Planner, I came up with when one of the things that before I brought it to the team is what I wanted to create was a planner that made you feel happy and that the planner actually looked happy. So it's kind of this dual meaning of you are a happy planner, but that also your planner doesn't look like the businessman special, no offense, but it's like, just the, navy blue with nothing on there, and you've got your, regular perpetual calendar. I wanted the planner to look happy, and then for its user to as well.
Hopefully we can squeeze in one more, but when you write down your emotions, do you also write down why you feel that way?
I do. Because sometimes you don't know. I think you have to just let yourself start to write down. Because I was driving home from work one day and just said, when I wrote down, it's like, I don't know, I felt this way. All I know is that when I drove home in the car and I have a 40-minute commute, I'm like, I wanted to like scream or run or like, oh, I want to run away. I was just writing down. I didn't know what I was feeling or why I felt that way. But the process of just writing it, eventually when I looked back, it was like, oh, I think I was just really angry. I think it was because of that. So sometimes you just have to write what you're feeling. And then as you start to, read back and kind of look over at the end of the week and go, that was a rough week. I was really struggling with some anger. So I'd say write down as much as you're comfortable with and as much as you have time for. Oh, I love all the people that are sharing the links to all the positivity courses. Thank you.
Michael's team, should we keep going? Okay, I'll keep going until someone tells me to stop. A couple people want to know what your writing process is.
So I worked with a writer because I am not a writer. So going into this process was a big learning experience for me. And so I worked in partnership with her, whether it was a lot of interviews, and then there were parts where she'd say, what about this outline? And then I would write some pieces, and then she would read, because I don't know how to structure a book. And even the whole editing, when you'd get it back from the editors, I'd like, oh, I don't even know how to like proof this and rewrite this. And so that was very eye-opening. I now have a much better idea of how that goes. She was amazing. I think a lot of it was we really kind of went over a lot of material that I had shared in speeches, on my social media, in blog posts over the years. And then we kind of worked together to say, how do we take this and make sense of the process? So it was a little, not backwards, but I think for me, if I was to sit down and write something now, I'd probably be like, here's what I want to do. Here's how it's structured. So I think that probably made it a little bit more difficult. But again, I don't know what's typical.
It sounds like Fran may have already started reading the book. So she says, my favorite part of the book so far is when you talk about nurturing creativity and it growing as you give yourself permission to be imperfect. As a creative entrepreneur, what advice would you give someone just starting out in the published workbook business?
In a published workbook business as opposed to, okay, so a couple different things when you are, and I don't know if I'm going to interpret your question right, but being someone who's a creative entrepreneur, you have to have ideas. You're usually, if yours is a workbook idea, you're bringing an idea that you have into life, right? You're breathing life into it. You're bringing it onto the marketplace, and that's vulnerable. Your ideas are vulnerable. It's sometimes very easy to take, creativity and the business world, they're hard partners to have. So you have to protect that part of you that is innovative and that's evolving and growing and that it was able to come up with this product in the first place. And so I would say, as you nurture that, protect that space, because there's going to be a lot of times when people will say, well, you got to do business this way, you have to do this. When you are a creative entrepreneur, the most important thing that I bring to the table is creativity. And it's not always, if you're in business for yourself, you don't have maybe as many people right now, but it may grow, and you may have people that are like, it doesn't seem to make sense. Even to me, we would get to this place where it'd be like, we had success with creativity, and it's like, but the business of it needs to go like this. So I would say protect your creativity while you're working really hard, but schedule that time in. If you're working hard to get the logistics of your business up, schedule a block for creativity. Because if you have a great workbook right now, unless you have discovered something that I know nothing about, usually you have to continue to come out with new things, which means you have to stay innovating and you have to stay finding out what's new. And so you have to protect that creative time if, as that's your biggest resource.
And Dominique wants to know something that I'm sure a lot of people are thinking. What is the one thing that you are looking forward to doing once things get back to normal?
Going to the movies. I am a really boring person, and I'm not an adventure seeker or anything like that. I would like to travel a little bit more. We didn't travel a ton. My husband and I were looking forward to that in retirement, and now we can't really go anywhere. But just basically is going to the movies. That's a random thing, but I'm also looking forward to just going to my family's house, having a barbecue where I can hug on my nieces and nephews and my sister, and, and see my people, without just socially distancing and all that kind of stuff. So, I'm actually really just looking forward to regular life the way it was before. And I guess I shouldn't say that, is maybe the things in my life the way that they were before that I might have taken for granted. Giving people hugs and going on a vacation and going to date night with my husband to the movies.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more question. Gina wants to know, do you carry your planner with you every day?
Well, right now I don't go anywhere. But when I did carry it with me. I carried it with me every day, to work. But if I'm going to the grocery store, I don't take my big classic sized planner. I will, a lot of times, if there's something I need to remember, I might write it down in my notes app on my phone, and then I might transfer it over. And if I don't do it on that day, then on Sunday, when I get back to take all my electronic stuff and put it in my planner, I'll do it there. Because, I tried doing a mini and a classic one, and I found it was too much for me to keep up with. So I just, I continued to just take my planner with me when I, would go to work or go someplace where I could carry my big bag.
Well, Stephanie, there are so many more questions here. So people had a lot of nice things to say and a lot more questions. Sorry that we didn't get to every one of them, but I'm going to hand this back to Stephanie Schroeder with Steph.
All right. Well, thank you all for attending, and please be sure to check out www.michaels.com/classes in 24 hours in case you want to revisit content from today. And Stephanie's book, Plan a Happy Life, and Coordinated Happy Planner products in Michaels stores are going to be in Michaels stores in the US and Canada, and on michaels.com Friday, August 28th. Thanks again, and have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody. And come back to tomorrow. Be sure to sign up for tomorrow. If you have questions that I didn't get to answer today, maybe in tomorrow's, the last fireside chat, I think there's still time to sign up, and maybe I'll get to your questions then. So have a great night, and thank you guys for all the great, thoughtful questions and for allowing me into your homes. Have a great night. Bye.